The pressures of 2020 forced us as individuals and organizations to adapt quicker than we ever imagined possible. Now that we've faced change with resilience, we need to understand what is the current state of HR, of the workplace. And to help shed some light on this topic, I'd like to welcome Josh Bersin. Josh is a globally recognized industry analyst focused on HR. In 2019, he founded the Josh Bersin Academy, a professional development academy which has become the home for HR in the past several months. Josh is frequently featured in publications such as Forbes, Harvard Business Review, HR Executive, The Wall Street Journal, and CLO Magazine. Welcome, Josh. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Yvette. Nice to be here.
So Josh, 2020 was such an incredibly challenging year for organizations and for individuals. As you look back on 2020, what would you say are the key lessons from that year? Key lessons for organizations as well as for the HR industry as a whole?
Well, there's been a lot, but let me just, key on a couple of things. The first is that human beings are far more resilient and adaptable than you realize. And usually it's the organization that's getting in the way, because what happened last year is virtually every company I talked to sent employees home, created a safe workplace strategy, reinvented its products, reinvented its services, created digital solutions that they've been talking about for many years, maybe changed the way they priced and sold their products, and actually did pretty well. The economy is doing okay after coming through that pandemic. And I think everybody learned a lesson that if we take care of people, they will take care of the company. So that's number one. Number two is this enormous issue of mental health, well-being, and individual resilience at work. There was this steadily increasing pace of work before the pandemic, where the unemployment rate went down to about 3.7%, and people were working lots of hours and they were spending 2 hours a day commuting. And I think CEOs' attitudes was just tighten the screws a little more and we'll get more out of these people. Well, now we realize that's not the answer. The real answer is to support people, empower people, engage people, give them the tools and information and skills they need, and they will actually even more surprise you. And the third thing I would say that I think is really important is how dynamic organizations can be. I spent a good amount of time for many, many years talking about the digital transformation issues in companies and the agile transformation companies were trying to go through. And there was a lot of academic discussions about, well, maybe we should work in cross-functional teams, and maybe we should have more talent mobility, and maybe we should promote leaders sooner. But, maybe we'll do that next year. Well, now everybody did it. All those dynamic organizational changes happened, and companies realized, wow, we can be a little more like Amazon. We can be a more dynamic organization. We don't have to be the old fuddy-duddy sort of old-fashioned company that goes through committee after committee after committee to get a decision. And I think that's been refreshing for CEOs. It's been refreshing for CIOs and everybody in HR. And by the way, HR people now have a seat at the table. Boy, there's no question in most companies today, the CIO and the CHRO and the CEO are very good friends about how to make the company successful. So we learned a lot. There's been a lot of learnings.
So Josh, what is the state of HR? What are the priorities over 2021? And is HR ready?
Well, there's a lot of priorities. There's a few really big ones. DEI is huge. That was sort of kicked off from the Black Lives Matter movement, but it's also, now we have the Asian issue and gender, women, age discrimination. That's a massively important topic. The second is employee experience. We're going to go into a very, very tight labor market. I think the economy is going to grow at an unprecedented scale over the next 2 years. I just had a meeting with 10 heads of recruiting. Everyone told me they have so many jobs open, they can't hire enough recruiters to fill the jobs. And I think this is just the beginning of the recovery, so that's going to get worse. And that means we have to make people more productive. We have to make work easier for people so we can get more out of the people we already have, and move people around better internally. And that's all about employee experience and internal talent mobility. And then the third huge one that's on everybody's plate is skills. The corporate learning industry had a really big year last year, lots and lots of growth, lots of consumption, lots of training, but the skills problem is unsolved. There's early stage skills engines coming out from vendors. But what I really work with companies on, we do a lot of consulting on this, is building capability models, strategic capability academies, we call them, using skills technology, and then finding the way to make the skills technology do what you want to do, and don't assume that it's just going to do everything for you. And I know you guys are getting into this in a big way too. And the fourth one I'll just mention is the transformation of the HR function itself. I mean, if there's anything I've learned in my 25 years as an analyst, is that HR has become a center of innovation. It's a center of creativity, design thinking about HR as like a product management function, not just a service delivery function, and organizing HR to really deliver appropriately new and creative solutions for your company in an effective and efficient way. And so just about every company is going through an HR transformation, upskilling their HR people, creating more cross-functional teams. And it's gone very, very well. I mean, I know every company is struggling with it, but there's been just tremendous success and progress made in all of those areas. The biggest problem I think companies tend to have with HR is not a lack of good intentions, is that the function itself is oftentimes fragmented. We've got an HR team in Europe that's different from the HR team in South America. And then there's a VP of HR in Europe who's different from the VP of HR in Canada. And we've got different organization structures. I mean, we got a lot of coordination to do. And one thing that came out of the pandemic was the pandemic proved that centralization is not the answer, but coordination is the answer. You can't centralize all of HR because it's not responsive enough. But you also have to coordinate it. You can't have everybody in every geography doing whatever they want, and then you end up with a very inefficient HR department and things just don't get done very well. So that business of governance and operations and operating model of HR is a really big topic. And I think virtually every big company is scratching their heads and working on that.
Well, Josh, you and I have been talking over recent months, and I've been sharing with you some of our product vision and strategy, especially in the area of the employee experience. And in fact, you wrote an article about our employee experience platform, Oracle Journeys. Thank you very much for that, by the way. But let me ask you, how do you think that employee experience overall has been reshaped as a result of the impacts of the pandemic?
Well, it has become the most important topic in HR because people are going home and coming back to work and working on hybrid work models and everything else and contingent work. So it's a crusade. I like to call it a crusade, and it's a multifunctional crusade. It's HR, IT, facilities, finance, legal, all of the service teams coming together and making employees more productive and more engaged. But the other thing that's really different, and this is where you guys are going to play a big role, is that it's not a problem of listening and doing surveys. It's a design problem. We have to design the employee experience so that it's great. Just like we design the customer experience, which companies have worked on for 2 decades, we haven't done that for employees. We haven't segmented them well. We haven't looked at journeys. It's really a relatively new domain for HR. So I think what you guys are doing with the journeys is going to be, massively exciting for Oracle customers because they can really roll up their sleeves and they can design great experiences for people using data, using the process management tools you have, without having to lash together 15 different products and try to get all of them to stitch together and work together well. So it's a really, really important new area.
That makes sense. I'm curious, Josh, what your thoughts are on this new hybrid workforce. The fact that many people won't be returning to the workplace, but will permanently be working from home, while others are certainly going to be required to be on site, and yet others still may feel compelled to be at the work site for any number of reasons. So how do you see this new hybrid workforce affecting employee experiences? How are skills going to be affected and D&I initiatives?
Well, I mean, I guess I disagree with you a little bit, Yvette, on one topic. I think the work at home, remote work craze went overboard. I mean, all these companies saying you can work at home for the rest of your life. We're never having an office again. They're all scratching their heads thinking, yeah, maybe we do need an office. Maybe people do need to get together. Maybe we should have a planning meeting. Maybe our sales team maybe should sit together and talk about stuff. We're going to get back to the office. But what really happened is we broke the bias against remote work. It used to be a lot of companies did not accept remote work. If you were a stock trader, you were not allowed to do it at home. Bankers were not allowed to work at home. A lot of healthcare professionals had to go into the hospital. They had to meet patients face to face. Found out, a lot of this can be done on video really, really well. So now we have this extra option of working at home and working remotely. And I think companies are going, and I know this, companies are working on much more formal programs around hybrid work with remote satellite offices and great internet connectivity at home, and teaching people that it is okay to work at home, but we also want you in the office for various times, and giving managers guidelines on when to do both. So I think this is a step forward in having a much more flexible, functional work experience, or multi-domain work experience is maybe the right word, and not being biased towards cramming everybody into the office. I mean, I remember right before the pandemic, if you ever came to San Francisco, every company had people sitting 1 inch apart from each other with headphones on because it was so noisy you couldn't even hear yourself think. We're not going to do that again. But I don't think everybody's going to work from home either. I think it's going to be both.
I'm curious about the impact that the pandemic has had on the concept of skills and skills management, both for ourselves and for our own futures, as well as for the HR perspective on the organization. How do companies think about skills now differently because of the pandemic?
Well, let me take a minute on that because this is a big one for me. The word skills has been a little bit overused. And we've been talking about the war for skills, new skills, reskilling, upskilling, continuous skilling. What is a skill? Is knowing how to use a pivot table a skill, or is doing a financial analysis a skill, or is being a CFO a skill? There's no clear definition of what the word means. And so the skills taxonomy engines like the one you guys have are, sort of guessing as to what this person knows and what this person needs to know based on other people in this job or other information it has in the company. So on the one hand, we have this incredibly powerful technology indexing and searching for words. Basically, skills engines are basically word searching taxonomy systems. And they're saying, oh, here's a whole bunch of courses that seem to use the word communications. So there must be a skill called communications that these courses teach. That's good. The problem with that is that doesn't make the business better. The business becomes better when you, as a strategic HR person or a business person, figure out what the capabilities are that make your company successful. And I use the word capabilities to differentiate from skills. So in sales, handling customer objections is a strategic capability. It's not a skill. You're not going to learn that in one course. You're going to learn that through a whole bunch of things and experience and coaching and mentoring and so forth. And so what I would challenge companies to do is use the technology like what you guys have, and then sit down and decide what are the strategic capabilities that make us who we are, that make us competitive, that make us the best. And let's decide what skills are affiliated with those capabilities and what experiences are needed, what developmental assignments, what face-to-face meetings, what projects will help people develop those capabilities. And then you'll really move the needle forward. So that's the small dose of advice for me on how to think about that problem.
Okay, well, as businesses look to return people to work, how can they ensure they're bringing in the skills that they're going to need for the future? And do they even know what those skills are?
Every industry, every company is in a domain where things are changing all the time. So it doesn't matter if you're a software company, a retailer, healthcare, whatever. There's new technology, there's new ideas, there's new business models, and so forth. One of our clients I interviewed about this is a large defense contractor. They have been in business for 75 years. Every year they go through and they decide the 100 things that are the most important capabilities for them to succeed in their defense contracting business. The guy who runs this thing said, about 4 or 5 years ago, we realized we needed to know a lot about drones. We didn't even know what a drone was. And sure enough, a couple of billion-dollar contracts come in from the feds on drones. He said, we decided we needed strategic capabilities on drones. So we built a whole capability framework of what we needed to know. It turned out a lot of the skills we had, but they weren't arranged in this way. This is what's happening in electric vehicles in the car industry. This is a very, very, very important strategic tool that you can sit down and do once or twice every year or two and really help your company stay current and relevant in whatever industry you're in.
So Josh, I've been reading your 2021 HR Predictions Report, and in it you discuss technology and its role in supporting HR's goals. So I have to ask you, what technology are you most excited about? And what's the impact of that technology on HR?
I think there's two things that are fascinating to me. One is the amazing success that AI is having in language, conversational interfaces, chatbots, and just ease of use of technology. So things really have gotten smarter and easier to interact with in a very human level. The second is something that I wrote about in the article about you guys, is this emergence of the creator market in HR. In the internet world of all the big tech companies, there's this talk about the creator market. The people that write music, the people that create TikToks, the people that people like me that write courses, whatever. Everybody in the planet is a creator. We all like to build things. That's kind of what, humans do. Well, this is the new domain of HR, is not just buying something off the shelf and turning it on and saying, oh, great, okay, it's all set. Everybody else learn how to use it and it'll be great. Every company is a little bit different. So we need tools for HR so we can be creators too. We can create a great onboarding program. We can create a great leadership program, whatever it may be. And I think the HR tech market is going through a massive change in this direction. Not just making the systems easy to use, systems of engagement we used to call them, but really systems of design, I call them. And I think that's going to unleash a lot of creativity in HR, and it's going to help organizations create more customized and configured experiences. It'll make recruiting better. It'll make all the other things we do in HR better. So those are the two things that I think are really, really cool about what's going on.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about today, Josh. Thank you so much for being with us. To close, I'm wondering if you would share one piece of advice for our audience as they work on prioritizing their own HR initiatives.
I think the most valuable thing that most HR people and companies could do is pick your head up from your day-to-day activity. And I know everybody's busy and you've got projects and lots of meetings to go to. And go look at what some other companies are doing. Talk to us, come into our academy, go to a conference, just take a couple of days off every year and look at what other companies are doing. We are living in a world where HR is a craft. It's not something you copy out of a book. It's something you invent and create. And the more you learn about how other companies are solving problems, the better you're going to be. So that would be my advice is, take some time to take a deep breath and look around at what other organizations are doing, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can learn some new things that'll apply in your company too.
All right. Well, Josh, again, it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And that was Josh Bersin. I enjoyed that conversation so much. I took a lot of insights away from that. I hope you did too. Thank you.